Olá! Oi, gente, tudo bem? Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Q&A. I'm very excited to be here with you today. Today we're going to talk about my last lesson that I published on YouTube last Tuesday, which was about one of the most beautiful places in Brazil. Actually, it's a big region called Nordeste, the northeast of Brazil. I hope you guys are listening to me well. Can you tell me in the comments and if you can listen and see me well? Tudo bom? I see a lot of people here. Roger, Andrew, tudo bom? Manes, acho que é David seu nome, né? Joe, Edson, tudo bom, gente? Hello, welcome to this Q&A. So, about the questions, I'm here to review the lesson and also answer your questions. It is hard for me to read all your comments and answer all your questions, so I have a couple of tips. If you are watching me on YouTube, whenever I say, oh, I'm going to read your questions now, I recommend you post your question. And if you asked a question and I did not answer your question yet, you can copy and paste and send me the question again, because it is hard for me to look for questions. So I recommend you do that. And if you are watching me on Instagram, there is a tool that you see a question mark. Just click on that question mark and ask your question. Use that tool to ask your question, because it is very hard for me to read the comments. Okay, so let's get started. I would like to start talking about the names of these states, because we have a lot of states in the northeast of Brazil. It is the region with the larger number of states. There are 9. Would you guys like to help me to list the name of these states? Tell me the name of at least one state that is located in the northeast of Brazil. There are 9. So you guys, can you help me? Let me see, I'm gonna read your comments. Olá, Sara, tudo bom? Tomac, Aref, tudo bom? Muito bom. What is the first one? There's one that starts with A, which is Alagoas. So Alagoas is one of the states. Alagoas. The next one, I have my list here because it's hard to remember by heart. All the states I have to think. Bahia, muito bom, Frank. Bahia, Pernambuco, muito bom, Aaron. Então, Bahia e Pernambuco, Alagoas, muito bom. Rio Grande do Norte, muito bom, Tomac. Pernambuco. Salvador is actually not the name of a state, it's the capital of the state of Bahia. Salvador is a very famous city in Bahia, the capital of Bahia. Temos Maranhão, muito bom, Andrew, Maranhão. Ceará, muito bom. Piauí, muito bom, Roger. Piauí. Bahia, Sergipe, muito bom, David. Paraíba, excelente. Is there anyone missing? Did we say Pernambuco? Pernambuco. Então, Alagoas, Bahia, Ceará, Maranhão, Paraíba, Pernambuco, Piauí, Rio Grande do Norte e Sergipe. Okay, so these are the 9 states located in this area of Brazil. The northeast is very big and very diverse. So I talk a little bit about the main characteristics of this region in my video. Of course, I cannot talk about everything because it is so big and so diverse. Each state has its own cuisine, its own accent, and culture. So it varies a lot from one place to the other. One interesting characteristic about the Northeast is the different accent. The accent also varies a lot from one state to another, sometimes from one city to another. But there is one thing that it is really noticeable, which is the pronunciation of the open vowels, the letter, especially the letter O, and also the letter E. Today is very hot in Maranhão. Oh, you're in Maranhão, que legal, Saura. Muito bom. It is always hot in Maranhão, isn't it? At least like in the north. Muito bom. So about the accent, this is a very interesting thing in the north. Not everywhere, but most parts of the Northeast has this pronounce the letter O with the open O. And the same word in the South and Southeast would be pronounced with the closed O. I'm not sure about this pronunciation in the regions North and Centro-Oeste, Central-West. I'm not sure. So for instance, the word coração means heart. Coração. So in the South and Southeast, we would say coração. Coração. In the Northeast, the most common pronunciation would be coração. Coração. So coração, coração. Can you tell the difference? Can you hear it? So this is a very common example of the difference in accent from one place to another. So if you're learning Portuguese, I recommend that you really don't get stressed about your accent, because if you go to Brazil, you see that each city, each state has a different accent. So don't get too stressed about accents, because there are so many accents in Brazil. Do you guys have any questions about this lesson? Let me know in the comments. If you are on Instagram, use the tool, the question mark tool, so I can see your questions, okay? Muito bom. So let's talk, I'm going to talk about one more interesting characteristic of the language spoken in the Northeast. I did not talk about this in the video, which is the use of the word não. This is very, very interesting, because in the South and Southeast, we always use the word não after the verb. We use the word não before the verb. So for instance, if you want to say I don't know, in Portuguese you should say eu não sei. So the word não comes right before the verb. So this is the most common, this is the norm, let's say, to use the word não in Portuguese. However, in the Northeast, it is very, very common to place the word não at the end of the sentence. For example, eu não sei, or sei não. So sometimes we just use the word não one time at the end, and sometimes we use the word não twice. Não sei não. So we say the word não two times. Não sei não. Instead of eu não sei, we would say não sei não. It's very interesting, right? We hear that a lot all over Brazil, but this is something that came from the Northeast. It is very, very common. Say no. It is very, very common in some parts of the Northeast. Maybe not everywhere, but I've heard this a lot. Okay, I see some questions here. Como aprender português o mais rápido possível? Well, this is a difficult question. There is no way to learn any language fast. To learn a language, you need a lot of time, a lot of effort. So if you want to learn fast, of course, the more time you dedicate, the more time you sit down and you study, the faster you will learn. But there is no way to learn a language fast. Okay, you need time. You need at least, I would say, 6 months to start speaking, and at least a couple of years to get fluent in one language. Okay, this is not only Portuguese, I would say this for every language that you decide to learn. Okay, guys, more questions? Does não usually come after a noun? Eu não sei, eu sei não. No, not really, no. It usually, the most common order would be after the pronoun, right? Eu não sei, I don't know. Or eu não vou, I'm not coming. So usually comes right after the subject of the sentence, the pronoun, and before the verb. So between the pronoun eu I, you, he, she, eu, você, ele, ela, and the verb. This is the most common position of the word noun. But as I said, in the Northeast, a lot of people just place the word noun at the end, and sometimes in two places. Sometimes you say the word noun 2 times. Okay, I see another question here. What is your favorite state in the North region, the Northeast region? So this is a question on Instagram. My favorite state, unfortunately, I don't know all the states, so it is a shame. I really would like to travel more to the Northeast. I was born in the Northeast, but I didn't grow up there. I moved to the South when I was very young, so I only know Piauí, I know Maranhão, and I've also been to Bahia a couple of times. These are the only 3 states that I'm familiar with in the Northeast. I'd say that my favorite one is Bahia because of the beaches, but Piauí and Maranhão also have amazing beaches up north. Very difficult question though, because I don't know the other ones, and I'm sure they are all amazing. Não sei não. So this is a fun pronunciation. When you say I don't know in Portuguese, sometimes instead of say não sei, we say não sei. Não sei, I don't know. Não sei não. Okay, looking for more questions, guys. So Pat is also asking about the beaches. This is also a difficult question because all states in the Northeast have amazing beaches. It is really difficult to choose one that has the most beautiful beaches. Seriously, the competition is very, very hard. They are so amazing. I really cannot choose the best one. Seriously, they are so beautiful. Looking for, so Frizz is asking which accent do I prefer. Actually, my favorite accent is from Minas Gerais, the accent Mineiro from Minas. It is so cute. And I think my second favorite is the one from Bahia. So beautiful. So Tik is asking, o Nordeste é mais perigoso que o Sul? I don't think so. I think all big cities in Brazil are dangerous, unfortunately, because we have a huge social problem in Brazil. There is a lot of poverty, and as a result, we have a lot of criminality. But I think that this is a problem in all big cities. The South is also very dangerous. So if you go to Brazil, just be careful. I don't think you should get stressed about that. Just be reasonable, be careful. Okay, looking for more questions, guys. Okay. So I have one more question here on Instagram. Você poderia recomendar show brasileiro no Netflix? So guys, there is someone asking for a recommendation of a Brazilian show on Netflix. I know that you guys have a lot of recommendations, so let me know so I can share with Zaf. Oi, Zaf. So my favorite Brazilian show is called Coisa Mais Linda. I think they translated into English as Girl from Ipanema, but it actually means most beautiful thing. Coisa Mais Linda. It's a beautiful show. It was recorded in Rio de Janeiro, and it is placed in the 50s in Brazil. It's beautiful, and their language is not too difficult to understand. They don't use a lot of slangs, so it's a very good show to use. And I recommend you use the Chrome extension called Learn Language with Netflix. It is free. You can download, you can attach to your Chrome. You have to use the Chrome browse, and then you can watch this web series using 2 subtitles. If you don't know the meaning of a word, you can click on the word to see the meaning. It's a very useful tool. Okay, so I have some recommendations here coming from people. 3%, this is a very fun. I watched only one episode. It's very interesting. Looking for O Mecanismo. I did not watch this one, but I've heard a lot about it. Hello, Veronica. Oh, I did not know this one. Muito bom. What else do you recommend? Sintonia. I also heard about this one. Very good. So there you have it. You have a lot of recommendations. Zaf, and I hope this is useful for you. There are also a lot of movies on Netflix that you can watch. Looking for more questions, guys. So yeah, so Cicero also recommends 3%. Very good. Okay, I saw a couple of questions. If I have not answered your question yet, you can just copy and paste again at the end. It helps me to see your question, okay? Is capoeira, zouk, and samba de gafieira popular? Yes, all these are very popular in Brazil. They're not the same thing, of course. Capoeira is more a kind of martial arts, right? It's a kind of fighting. It's very interesting, especially in Bahia. They are so good. Like if you watch a real capoeira, it is really amazing. Samba is a dance. It is very popular in Brazil, especially in the Northeast. But we also have a lot of samba in Rio de Janeiro. The samba was born in Bahia, but then it became very popular also in Rio de Janeiro. Muito bom. So Christopher is recommending O Alto da Compadecida. This show is so much fun. I also recommend. It is harder to understand because they use a dialect, they use a lot of different words, but it's fun and it's a very good challenge for you guys. Ninguém tá olhando, Aaron, right? I think it's ninguém, not nenhum. Ninguém tá olhando. Yeah, I've also heard about this web series. Very good recommendations, guys. I think I saw a question about the pronunciation of T and D. I cannot find the question anymore, but I'm going to talk about this very quickly, because this is also one interesting detail about the accent in Brazil, in the Northeast. Not everywhere, but in Recife specifically, people pronounce the T and the D in a different way from the other areas. So the word dia, for instance, this is the most common pronunciation in Brazil. Of course, it varies, but the most common one is dia. But in Recife, they say dia, bom dia. So this is a common accent in this area. Another word, gente. We usually say ti, right? Gente. In Recife, they would say gente. Am I right? If you are from Recife and I'm not pronouncing it right, let me know. So the T and the D is pronounced, it's not G and T, it's D and T in Recife. That is very cool. We also have this different T and D sound in the south, in Paraná, but it's different because in Paraná they would say the word gente, they would say gente. They would have the E sound at the end, but in the Northeast would be gente. Gente. You see, so it is different, even though the T is the same pronunciation of the T, but the vowel is pronounced in a different way. Okay, guys, looking for more questions. So I have a question regarding accents. Can you do a comparison of regional accents in contrast to American? Oh, I cannot do that. It is too difficult for me to identify American accents. Sometimes I can tell the accents a little bit different, but it is very difficult for me to recognize. I'm more familiar with Brooklyn and New York, but sometimes I can tell, oh, his accent is different, but I cannot tell the details. It's very hard for me because English is not my mother language. But I would say that it's similar in a way that each state has its own accent, and sometimes each city and each neighborhood, right? You see that a lot in New York. If you go, the accent in some areas in Brooklyn is different from the accent in Manhattan, right? So this is very interesting. This also happens a lot in Brazil. If you go to São Paulo, there is the main accent, let's say, the one that you see on television. But if you go to different neighborhoods, people have different accents and sometimes different expressions, dialects that are very specific from a neighborhood. So that happens a lot in Brazil. The accents, they change a lot from one place to another. The most standard ones are the ones that you see on television, on news programs especially. Okay, looking for more questions, guys. If I have not answered your question, you can just copy and paste and ask again to see it, so I can see your question. Muito bom. Oh, I did not understand this question about dever, but why then we say, for example, dever in different way? Sorry, I did not get your question. I don't understand. You're talking about the word dever, the verb, or the noun? I'm not sure about your question, sorry. This is a good question. Existe neve em alguns lugares do Brasil? Neve means snow. It is snowing a lot in New York today. It looks beautiful outside. So, yes, there is snow in Brazil, but not much. I've lived everywhere in Brazil. I've never seen snow in Brazil, but I've heard that it snows sometimes a little bit. It does not snow like in the US. Like there's not like a lot of snow in Brazil. In a few areas in the south only, in the south, in the mountains, sometimes it snows a little bit. But only in this area, okay? You will not find snow easily in Brazil. Muito bom. More questions, guys? Are the people that come from the Northeast very different than from the rest of Brazil? If yes, in what way? I'm not sure. I mean, if you mean how come different? I think that people from different states in Brazil, they are a little bit different from each other. So we have a different accent. The culture is a little bit different. In the Northeast, we have a stronger influence of African descendants, right? We have a lot of Africans all over Brazil, but in the Northeast is much more, you can see that much more in the culture, in the food. So for instance, the food in Bahia, it's so there is so much from Africa. The condiments, the ingredients that we use, we got that a lot from African descendants that were brought to Brazil. So this is stronger in the Northeast, even though we have the African influence all over Brazil, you can see that much more strongly in the Northeast. So the samba was also born in the Northeast and also has influence from the Africans. So this is very strong, and also we have a lot of indigenous influence in the north especially, but also the Northeast, much more than in the South and Southeast. I'm not saying there is not Africans and indigenous in the South and Southeast. There is, but there is much more in the North and Northeast because of how Brazil was, because of our history, right? We had in Brazil, you know that in the U.S., this is interesting. The U.S., the plantations and all that we happened in the south of the U.S. and the north was the most industrialized place. In Brazil was the opposite. So we had all the farms in the north and northeast and all the industry in the south and southeast. I'm talking in a very general way. So for that reason, we have much more. We had much more slaves brought to the northeast of Brazil because all the plantations were in the northeast at the time of colonization, and for that reason, we have much more influence from Africans in the northeast than we have in the rest of the country. But of course, we have that influence everywhere. So I think this is one of the things. There are so many different characteristics that I could talk about, but I think this is one that is very important, and it is related to our history. I hope I answered your question, Iris. I think I talked too much about that. Looking for more questions, guys? So this is a fun question. Existem muitas palavras diferentes entre regiões? Seria razoável publicar um dicionário sobre cada região? I think there is. That would be a very fun dictionary, to have a dictionary with words used in different regions. I think that would be very, very fun. I'm going to say a couple of words that we use in the Northeast. Can you guys help me? Do you know any words, expressions that we use in the Northeast that are not common in the rest of Brazil? There are so many. One that is very common in the Northeast is the expression oxi or oxente. Oxente comes from the phrase o gente. Gente means guys, people. And then we connected the two words and we have oxente, but it is used as an exclamation, as an interjection. What is going on? Oxente, o que é isso? Oxente. A minha família, my family uses this a lot. Oxente. What else we use in the Northeast that we do not use in the rest of the country? That would be, if you guys know any other expressions, let me know. Wow, so many questions, guys. So, okay, I'm going to try to answer some of other questions. Do you think São Paulo is safer than Rio? I have no idea. I think I would say the same level. You have to be careful in both cities, okay? You can be very safe. You just have to be smart about it, okay? So, como é o sotaque do norte? So this is very difficult for me to talk about because norte, not northeast, right? Because I've never been to the north. I should go. It is on my list. I'm going to talk about norte next week, so wait for my new video. Are the favelas safe? It depends. Usually favelas are considered a dangerous place. There is a lot of problems in the favelas, but not everyone in the favelas are dangerous people, right? There are a lot of normal people who lives in the favelas who have a normal life. But if you go to the favelas, I recommend you don't go alone. Go with a friend, someone that you know, someone that knows the favela. You know, I don't recommend that you go to Brazil as a tourist and you go alone to a favela. It can be dangerous because you don't know where you're going. So be careful. But if you know someone who knows the favela, it's okay. You know, it can be fun. Just be careful. Just don't be reckless. Qual é o seu prato favorito? Muqueca. I've made a video with a recipe of muqueca, which is my favorite dish. I love muqueca baiana. I'm vegan, so I make a vegan version with plantains instead of fish, because muqueca usually are made with fish. Muqueca is delicious. Okay, guys, so many good questions. Okay, I see they're asking a lot about my favorite things. I'm looking, do you have any questions about Portuguese? Anything I can help you with today before we finish this Q&A? Is the food in Bahia and the Northeast can be compared to soul food in the American South? Soul food. I don't think so. Do you think, Rob? No, it's very different. Yeah. I cannot see any similarity at all with Brazilian food and American food, like at all. It's so different. I don't see any similarity, no. Muito bom. Looking for more questions, guys. So, qual é a próxima região? The next one I'm talking about is Norte. So next week, I will publish a video about the região Norte. So Lib is asking, where would you recommend a master's degree program if you go to Brazil? I recommend you go to USP. USP is the University of São Paulo. It's considered the best, or one of the best universities in Brazil and South America. I went to USP. I love it. So I recommend USP. But of course, if you want to live in a place with beaches, and then I would recommend going to a university in the Northeast. But I wouldn't know how to recommend a university in the Northeast. But if you're looking for a good university, USP is a good one. Okay, guys, one last question before we finish our Q&A. So, tem alguma recomendação para não confundir o espanhol com o português? So this is very difficult. Spanish and Portuguese are so similar, so we mix them a lot. This is totally normal. There's something you should know. It is normal, so don't panic. We always mix Portuguese and Spanish. Everyone does that. Brazilians do that. Spanish speakers do that. One tip for you, do not underestimate Portuguese. I know it is easy to understand, but you have to study everything from the beginning. You have to study verbs ser and estar. I know it is so similar, but all my students, when they use ser and estar, sometimes I have students that have been studying for me for a year and they say eu sou. And then I want to eu sou. It is similar, but it's different. So do not underestimate. You have to study everything, all the basics, everything, and practice a lot. And I think that with a lot of practice, it will get easier. You start to mix them a little bit less. So practice. That is no magic, unfortunately. Okay, any last question? Okay, I see there are some questions here on Instagram as well. Okay, so these are not questions. So how do you spell muqueca? It's actually moqueca, M-O-Q-U-E-C-A, muqueca. Muqueca. Look for my video on YouTube about muqueca. I have a recipe for you and I talk about all the ingredients. It's a very fun video. So Temilson escreveu oxente. That's how you write the expression that I talked about. Oxente. Very northeasterner expression. Very good, guys. Just looking if you have any other question before I finish. Okay. Okay, so this was amazing. I don't see any other questions. I'm sorry if I did not see your question, did not answer your question. So one last question from Juan. É difícil para outros brasileiros às vezes entender o pessoal do Nordeste? I don't think it is difficult, no. I think sometimes if you use expressions, slangs, then it can be a little bit difficult. But yeah, I don't think it is a problem. You know, we can talk to each other, but sometimes you have to stop. Wait, what did you say? And vice versa. You know, from people from the South also have a lot of expressions and slangs that we don't use in the North and Northeast. So that happens a little bit when you go from one place to another. Even when I lived for a long time in Florianopolis in the South, and then I moved to São Paulo. And when I got to São Paulo, a lot of slangs were different. I was like, what are these people saying? Even from São Paulo, which is the biggest city. But it took me a while to get used to the new language. So this happens everywhere you go in Brazil. You need some time to get used to the slangs and the new language, okay? Okay, guys, it was a pleasure to see you today. I hope this was useful for you. I'll be here again next week, next Thursday. Actually, next Thursday is the 24th, but I think I'll be here anyway. We can celebrate Christmas together. So I hope you have a beautiful Thursday, and I'll see you next Thursday, same time, 12 p.m. here. Um beijo. Tchau, tchau.